May we hold those words as we reflect on what the vision might be for our congregation. Archbishop Romero's words remind us of the imperative to build a vision for the future, a vision that holds both uncertainty and hope. Uncertainty that we will not accomplish all that needs to be done, and hope that there will be those who will take up the work after we are done. And he holds up for us the important reminder that we are in fact liberated by the knowledge that saving the environment, alleviating poverty, changing the world is not up to us alone. We must work for justice, but we must work beside others. Therefore, we work in trust and hope. Our work together has the greatest impact when we have a clear vision that inspires our work and commitment. I thought of that this week as I volunteered to help with the student habitat build. Wow, was that amazing? It was so inspiring to see so many students working, giving their time and energy. I had to tell some students, I'm sorry, we have too many people. You can't work on the house now. You'll have to come back at a later time. But they would not have been able to accomplish so much. I mean, I went Thursday and there were already 3 walls up. And they started Wednesday afternoon. But they would not have been able to accomplish so much without a clear plan and a blueprint for their work. This congregation has worked very hard the last 2 or 3 years with one blueprint for the path forward: to call a new minister and to begin a new phase in our life together. So now we're getting on to the exciting part. We're on the road into the future. Some of you may have thought, well, when we get the new minister, we can sit back and we'll be done. She'll have the blueprint, the map for our future. She will clarify for us what our vision will be. So I have to break the news to you. I don't have a vision for UUFC's future. There is no GPS into which we can punch the address and get clearly delineated directions. A path, a vision needs to be created by all of us together. We are more like pioneers than commuters. So the address for where we're going isn't easily accessible. Our faith gives us a direction for creating a vision. And we can see those in our principles, in our purposes. But we need to discern the end goal, the vision. We know that we are committed to being a welcoming congregation. We know that we want to be a green sanctuary. But in addition to that, what else do we want to focus on? Where are we going? So I tend to like the Sandberg quote that says, I'm an idealist. I don't know where I'm going, but I'm on the way. One of the scriptures that Bill Clinton quoted when he was campaigning was from Proverbs, where there is no vision, the people perish. Miles Kimball writes, Clinton was using the word vision not in the sense of a divine revelation, but in the sense of an ideal, an image of how the world could and should be, and some ideas of how to work toward that goal. Each of us in our personal lives is guided by visions of how our own lives could be and should be and how to work toward those goals. And in our public lives, we are each guided by visions of how the world could and should be, and our ideas of how to work toward these goals. it feels challenging to create a vision for a congregation that has people with such diverse beliefs. But as I said, we have some starting points. We have our principles, our commitments to welcoming congregation and green sanctuary. But what kind of vision from there can this group of independent idealists get behind? Sometimes we might feel stymied by the directions we can go. So I think perhaps rather than talking, articulating words and concepts, maybe we need to think of images that can help us see what our fellowship might look like in the future. What potential images for our congregation might continue to come up? So, I want to share a few of the visions. The first image that I thought of, like who we can be in the future, is of a beacon. We are a beacon of liberal religion in the Tri-County area. I brought that image from my United Methodist background. It's not unique to Unitarian Universalism. And unfortunately, some of my memories of that image of being a beacon of light comes from a hymn that used to scare me when I was a little girl in the United Methodist Church. There was a hymn that talked about a shipwreck. Some of y'all may remember this. Brightly beams our Father's mercy from his lighthouse evermore. But to us he gives the keeping of the lights along the shore. Let the lower lights be burning, send a gleam across the wave. Some poor fainting, struggling seaman you may rescue, you may save. I had nightmares about this, but the imagery is good. That's a powerful image. I mean, I couldn't swim when I was growing up. They closed all the swimming pools in the state of Mississippi during the Civil Rights Movement. So here I am looking at this image of being rescued from drowning and then transferring that image over to imagine how can we be a beacon shining for those who need a haven when the seas of life are tumultuous. Another image that I hold for our fellowship is as a MASH unit. At times I feel that we're here on Sunday morning to help folks recover and to prepare them for the onslaught of their lives. So many people in our congregation spend their lives in service to others, working to try to make the world a better place. So very often we need respite and nurture on Sunday morning or Wednesday evening or whenever we come to this fellowship. Perhaps the vision for our fellowship might be as an army of gardeners. We are out there planting seeds of justice, trusting that some of those seeds will take root. Someone, I don't remember who it was, said that they were in a conversation with a person from another faith community, and the person asked them how large our congregation was, and when they were told around 130, 150 people, the person was surprised, saying, but UUs are involved in everything. Our vision needs to hold the seeds for work for the future. Perhaps who we want to be is a social organization, providing laughter, activities, experiences for building and deepening friendships. This image doesn't seem as lofty as helping alleviate poverty, but it nurtures our lives, giving us strength to do the other work that we need to do. And what about the image of an academic setting? This is very popular in a lot of UU congregations. Certainly, we're committed to educating our children and to pursuing education for ourselves. Does our vision for our congregation need to focus on learning about science and the mind, about spirituality, to explore the depths of human knowledge? Our vision might hold for us the image of a retreat or sanctuary. Might we be a place where we can find quiet and peace, where we can meditate on life? Can it be a sanctuary in the midst of the world that helps us reflect on how to live more fully? The image of an altar comes up. An altar where life's rites of passages are celebrated. Or might we be a garden that is filled with riotous color, plants of many shapes and fragrances, plants that are early bloomers and those that are late bloomers, each bearing beauty in its appropriate time. And then there's the image of an orchestra tuning up. Every instrument being played independently to find its true note, thereby able finally to play in harmony with the other instruments. When offered a vision for the music, there is a willingness to turn individual rhythms over to a cooperative effort, and the whole being willing to be led. What about our fellowship as a building in progress, always being expanded and renovated to accommodate the growing need for shelter and hospitality? And the image, which is quite a paradox, in which we are both the oasis that resupplies the caravan and we are a caravan on a journey. So, which of these images might we choose? You might have a very different image. What vision will meet the needs of all those who walk through our door? What image or images might be woven into a vision for what we want to be in 5 years, in 10 years, in 50 years? The reality is that none of these images alone is complete as a vision for our fellowship. Some images fit the needs of one group of people, and another image is important to others of us. Unlike many faith traditions in the area with numerous congregations that might focus on one or another of these ways of being in community, we hold our faith and gather in all those who seek a liberal religious community. So we need to ask ourselves, what words and symbols do we need to hold before us to guide us as we go forward? And what will be our short-term goals as we move into the future? And a question for our new ministry startup is, what do you want to do with me? What are the priorities for the use of my time and energy that will help this community fulfill its vision? Each of these images has implications for us and for the professional ministry at UUFC. If we want to be a beacon of liberal religion, then we're going to need to prepare ourselves to welcome those who find their way here and to provide the programs that help people feel nurtured and welcomed. And we will need to be committed to growth and open to how growth will change this fellowship. If we are going to be a behind-the-lines hospital to patch up the weary and battered, then we need to prepare ourselves spiritually and emotionally to care for one another when times are challenging. We need to have the personal resources to be a healing presence to one another. If we are to be gardeners who plant seeds for future social change, then we need to trust that change is happening even if we can't see it. We need to focus the energy of this community on being social change agents. This includes the clear intention to speak out, to get our hands dirty, and commit ourselves to lifestyle changes that support our commitments both to human society and to the natural world. As a congregation, we will need to support and bless the work of our members in the larger world. If we're to be a social club, then we need to have enough room to include everyone. If we're to have an intellectual focus, then we need to offer one another learning opportunities that weave together mind and spirit into greater understanding. If we are to be a retreat, then we need to open our space to silence, music, art, and beauty, so that our hearts and souls find space to reach deep in the well of human understanding and sacred knowledge to find peace. If we are to be an altar, then we need to ground ourselves in the mystery of life as people come among us to celebrate and honor life's essential transitions of birth, marriage, death, as well as transitions important to individuals. If we are a garden, diverse and wondrous, we need care and tending, even a little bit of pruning. We need light and food for each of us to grow on. We need to be able to put down roots so that we can hold on to life when the storms come. We need to put down roots, reach for light, and drop seeds for future growth. And we know that we are sometimes like the orchestra tuning up when we forget that we are, in fact, part of a community. We need the structures that acknowledge our individual needs and help guide us toward our commitment to come together for the higher good, to make music to beautify the world. We live in anticipation for what is to come, so our building needs to care for our present members and to prepare for those who come after us. We acknowledge that we live in paradox, like the oasis and the caravan. We both give and receive. We nurture others even as we are being nurtured. We are a place to stop for respite, and we are seekers always ready for a journey of the Spirit, seeking out new ways to manifest peace, love, and harmony in the world. What shall it be? Who shall we be? The reality is that we are each of these images at different times in our shared life and ministry. So we must remain very flexible, as we were last night. We must remain fluid and tolerant of one another. When all these images are woven together, we are a community. And as Dr. King charged faith communities, may we be the beloved community. Perhaps that term, that vision, that image is broad enough and deep enough to gather up all the different aspects of what we share together so that we might weave them into a vision for this community. I'd like to take a couple of minutes with the microphone because I know there were lots of these images. Any other thoughts about what kind of vision we want to create for the future?
This is very practical, but much of what you said, the various visions, are not best supported, would be supported by a beverage and light food hospitality hour after church. We've done that in the past. Right now, that's sort of a weak part of our fellowship, where people can go and get to know each other. I was in the church, in the kitchen before church started, and there is no one signed up. And I found that one member of our fellowship is doing most of the work. So I did sign up for next Sunday, and it would be really nice before the end of the morning service if others are signed up on that. Do you want to tell them where that is?
On the door?
And that's why I wanted to use the images, because when we talk about a vision as, philosophy, it's hard to put our feet on the ground and realize that we have to embody in clear manifestation of these images who we want to be in the world. Because if it's on a piece of paper, and one of the weaknesses for lots of Unitarian Universalists is we talk about something and think we've done something. So, in part, that's why I decided to use these disparate images, because, life is short. We need to have a vision that is action-oriented and very concrete, like making coffee. I'm not a coffee drinker, so it doesn't...
I think one of the problems is, when I was listening to all those images, they all appealed to me. And I think that's one of the hardest things that many of us, I know it's true for me, is to choose and say, well, I can't do everything, so I need to choose a few things and get them done. I know there's some people here that are like that too. And I think that's going to be a hard thing that we have to think about as we move forward with this vision, is that we're not going to be able to be every single one of those things.
Which means that we really have to have clear goals. Okay, 5 years from now, this is how we want to flesh out these images, but this year, this is what we can do. Paula.
I appreciated that you mentioned the beacon of light. That was part of my song last night. We are a beacon of light. Yeah. Many of the people who are attracted to that beacon of light are people leaving other faiths where belief was stressed over action sometimes. And a lot of those people are saying, well, what do you believe? And of course we say we believe all different things. But I always welcome activities that help people explore what they believe, what is spirituality, what do I do to nurture my soul, what is soul, and that sort of thing. Our current Tuesday night meditation group meets my needs in that direction, but I think it's important to add that dimension to all the social justice and community issues.
Right. And I think one of the things that this congregation does very well is have groups like the Tuesday evening meditation, the Saturday morning meditation, even though it's officially, we're still working. The covenant groups are a gift to so many people in this congregation. Andy.
Yeah, I think I'd like to just mention, as part of this vision that is coming true this coming week, if that's okay, that the building is going to be painted. So hopefully everybody already knows this, so if you have any plans during the week, but I'm very excited to see how it's going to look, because it's going to be done in 3 days.
Yeah, so that was a goal that's been worked on it's been in process for like a year. Ted, and microphone.
That underlies Unitarian Universalism is how we treat the term sacred. Sacred to some people is putting a concept or an object on some type of altar and never going near it and only worshiping it. In contrast to that, I think very many of us will regard something that's sacred, but we don't hesitate to maybe modify it. Maybe, I'm serious about this. Maybe modify it, or maybe use that concept to try to make the world a better place rather than something to hold off in the distance.
Right, and I think our commitment to being a green sanctuary is that we believe that all that is sacred, including our earth, which we need to care for. Cecil, and then we're going to sing.
The mention of painting reminded me of the time when we built this addition to the physical plant here. And at the time, we weren't very big. We couldn't afford it. And there have been other points in our history where we were bold enough to just take a step. And so I think that's an important thing. We need to be bold about some of these things.
Courage, yes. Yes. Which is part of what we did with our budget this year. And part of what this congregation did as you were searching for a new minister is stretch financially, and I don't know how else you stretched. I wasn't here then. So thank you. I'd like for this to be the beginning of an open dialogue as we look forward into the future with courage, with leaps of faith. And in that spirit, I invite us to share our closing hymn.